Ever since Ridley Scott decided to start making more Alien movies, Prometheus and now Alien Covenant, a lot of people have complained that the new movies are not as good as the original, and one of the biggest reasons why is plot holes and/or characters behaving stupidly. While I completely agree that Alien is much better than Prometheus or Alien Covenant, I also think it's worth remembering that Alien came out in a very different era, a time before the internet or YouTube commentaries, and that changes how movies are watched. I think if there had never been an Alien movie and the original Alien came out today, it would be criticized for almost all of the same reasons that people bash Covenant and Prometheus, because it's guilty of almost all the same things. In fact, I think Alien has bigger plot holes than the plot holes in Prometheus or Alien Covenant. Don't believe me? Watch, I'll prove it to you. Everyone knows the characters in Prometheus behave like complete idiots. Milburn and Fifield in particular demonstrate not just stupidity but character inconsistency. They freak out at the sight of an alien corpse.
No, I'm out of here.
But then later when an aggressive, snake-like living alien confronts them, they decide to try and play with it? That directly contradicts itself and makes the characters feel false. Of course, it also makes little sense that they got lost or couldn't communicate with home base, but let's focus on stupidity for now. Would you believe that Alien features an even bigger act of idiocy? It does. It's been sitting right under your nose for decades. You probably think I'm going to say Cain looking in the egg, don't you? No, I don't mind those kinds of character decisions. They're made in split seconds, and people are capable of being stupidly curious. Having a problem with that's just nitpicking. No, this is a much deeper problem. You want to know what it is? Why did they blow up the ship? No, really, think about it. Why did they do that? Why don't you just get in the shuttle and fly away? Once you're on the shuttle, it doesn't matter if the alien is blown up or wandering around an empty spaceship in deep space. It's all the same to you. In fact, blowing up the ship is ridiculously more dangerous. It introduces the possibility that you'll get caught in the blast, which is, of course, what very nearly happens, and it doesn't do anything to make the survivors any safer than they would have been if they'd just flown away. Now, some of you will say that in a panicked situation we make mistakes, and that's certainly true. That's why I forgive Cain looking in the egg. It's also why I think Sean Vickers running from the ship in Prometheus is an overblown problem. I mean, people are allowed to be dumb in split-second decisions while under intense threat. But this wasn't a split-second decision. This was made during a crew meeting when they weren't under immediate attack.
We're gonna blow up the ship. We'll take our chances in the shuttle. Blow up the ship.
Blowing up the ship is such a stupid decision with so little upside and so much overwhelming downside that I truly believe it just never would have even occurred to Ripley to suggest it. Put yourself in her shoes. Why would this ever cross your mind? You're in a fight or flight situation, fighting has failed, so you flight, you just run. It's the simplest plan, it's the best plan. Blowing up the ship is a complication. Now, some of you are going to say, well, they blew up the Nostromo so the alien couldn't hurt anyone else. No. First of all, that would be an incredibly altruistic thing for them to do, because that's exposing them to overwhelmingly more risk for the benefit of hypothetical people who might be in danger or might not. It's just as likely that no one finds the ship as it is that someone does. I mean, it took 57 years for someone to find Ripley. And if altruism had been why they did it, someone would have said that was why, and I guarantee you that Parker, who we know is a pragmatist who looks out for number one, would never have gone along with it.
This is a commercial ship, not a rescue ship.
But it's never discussed. Everyone seems to agree they have to blow up the ship when they don't have to do that. And of course, when it turns out that they can't get off the Nostromo within the arbitrary time frame the self-destruct requires, Ripley ends up in the humiliating position of trying to reverse her own self-destruct order, which she's unable to do. And right about now, it should probably occur to her, hey, why did I set this thing to self-destruct in the first place? It's just a bad decision. It's not what the characters would have done in this situation. The reason it's in the movie is purely visual. It gives Ridley Scott permission to have blaring alarms and countdowns and all the things that make a climax scary and effective. But it's absolutely as nonsensical as playing with a hammer beat in Prometheus. Believe it or not, Alien has a flaw that Prometheus and Covenant don't even come close to. It has a nonsense plot twist. The end of this movie makes so little sense, I'm amazed I don't hear more people talking about it. Let me give you a brief recap. Ripley discovers that the Nostromo has a secret mission to recover the xenomorph and return it to the company for analysis. To that end, they've secretly put a robot among the crew, Ash, to function as the science officer and make sure this takes place. And that's consistent with what we see. Ash does everything he can to push them towards finding the alien.
I mean, but the time it takes to get there, they'll know if it's a warning or not, yes?
In a hatch open.
And then he protects it however he can.
For God's sake, this is the first time that we've encountered a species like this. It has to go back, all sorts of tests have to be made.
No, touch it!
You can even kind of see him watching Kane during the dinner scene before the chestburster makes an appearance. So when did the company make this evil, nefarious plan to collect the xenomorph? It would have had to have been before the mission began, because we know that Ash was specifically put aboard to ensure safe delivery. That means the company knew there was an alien out there, and they must have known the Nostromo was going to come across it, which means they probably knew roughly where it was. Now, if you're an evil intergalactic conglomerate, why do you send people with no expertise or training to inadvertently collect a sample that is presumably of unthinkable value? Because if this thing kills all of them, which it's very likely to do, then they can't deliver it back anywhere. The ship's just going to float in space. And if it doesn't kill all of them, odds are they will kill it, which is no good either. And then the survivor or survivors will return home and sue you into oblivion. If this plan worked, it would be some kind of miracle. I mean, you'd have to have countless variables break perfectly your way. Now, we get into some speculative territory here, because we don't know much about the world of Alien and what's involved in space travel. It could be that it's so expensive to send ships into deep space that the company can't afford more than one. But that doesn't seem right. The Nostromo is introduced as a commercial towing vehicle that's meant to evoke truckers in modern day. Everything about the movie suggests that space travel isn't special, it's not glamorous, it's pedestrian and dull. The ship is run by working class grunts. And if this was a one-of-a-kind mission, you'd think something closer to astronauts would be in command. Now, some people have proposed as an answer to this problem that the Nostromo wasn't initially sent out to get the xenomorph, but stumbled upon it, and then the company decided it was worth risking to try to bring it back. This still has a lot of problems, but it would make more sense, and it would probably be passable as an explanation. Unfortunately, it's completely impossible. First of all, Ash. He was put on the ship because the company wanted the alien. You might assume there's an android on every mission, which is the case 57 years later in Aliens.
It's just common practice. We always have a synthetic on board.
I prefer the term artificial person myself.
But the way the crew reacts to his presence makes me doubt that.
It's a robot. Ash is a goddamn robot.
If he wasn't put there to get the xenomorph, why did the company hide that he was a robot? In Aliens, they don't hide this. Everyone knows who the android is. It's certainly possible that the company is just weird and they put secret androids on their missions, and that's a whole other thing, but it's a stretch. Secondly, and this is the big thing, the technological limits of Alien don't allow for the company to call audibles like this. When the crew first wakes up and tries to contact Earth, they can't because they're only halfway home. Despite repeated attempts at communication, they get dead silence. This teaches us something important. There is no communication between ships in deep space and Earth. So the Nostromo has no way of telling home base that they've found a particularly enticing alien specimen, and the company has no way of sending it new secret orders. It's just not possible. The story will not allow it. My point in all of this is not to tear down Alien. Alien's a horror classic. It's a masterpiece, and being honest, I don't really care about plot holes or stupid character decisions, because that movie is so beautifully put together and so original. I don't care that it's dumb to blow up the ship. I love the alarm sounds and the steam-filled hallways and the strobing alarm lights. I don't care that the company's plan makes no sense, because Ash going crazy is the best, scariest scene in the movie. Prometheus and Covenant aren't bad because they have plot holes and stupid characters, because Alien has those things too. They're bad because they have nothing else, nothing that can make those flaws not matter. Ridley Scott directed all three of these movies, and even though one is a classic and two are really not, carefully examining them proves that he hasn't really changed very much in the course of his long and illustrious career. He's always made visually spectacular, hugely ambitious films, and he's always been prone to flawed character work and kinda nonsensical plot. It's just that back when Alien came out, there was no internet, there was no YouTube commentary. Plot holes were harder to spot and less likely to be discussed. Ridley has always been Ridley. We're the ones who've changed. Thank you so much for watching. As you might have noticed, this is the first video for the channel, and my hope is that there's going to be a lot more coming soon. So if you like it, consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you soon.